Hey there, welcome to episode 134 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, and we are recording this at 4:23 p.m. Pacific Time, Thursday, September 18th, 2025. The weather is weird in Vegas. Maybe it's going to rain where I am. It's having some weird impact on my sinuses and my voice, so I'll apologize now. Hopefully my voice will make it through this episode. It's a particularly interesting one to me. Hopefully you will agree. The title and topic of today's episode, Startup Week versus Startup Week 2.0. A little correction there. If you're not familiar with the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, or in fact Cafe Genius, let me fill you in a little bit. Cafe, spelled with two F's, an homage to the Cafe Centro, a small but adorable coffee shop located, while it was still around, in South Park, San Francisco, very near the ballpark, sometimes the AT&T ballpark, more recently the Oracle ballpark. It was where startups start. Cafe Centro, Twitter, what's his name, Jack Dorsey, famously hanging out there with his laptop in those early days. Cafe Centro. Would that it were still around. And we do need Cafe Centro-like places here in the greater Vegas area, but that's another conversation for another day. Genius, as in the Genius lunches that we used to have back in the Downtown Project days. Now, I was not a part of Downtown Project, but it was all about people doing things, getting together for lunch to catch up, see what's going on, who's up to what, who's down to what. Kind of like gossip. But for the space of a lunch, not an all-day event, not so heavyweight, sort of ad hoc, hey, if you can make it, great. If not, next time. So Cafe Genius puts those two ideas together. Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program is a audio program about the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem that is the greater Vegas area, although it may extend beyond. The impresarios, with two S's, are the people making that happen. Episode 134 on this Thursday, September 18th, 2025. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, and there are now more places, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a summary of 2 sentences, which I'll read to you. They're not very long. The links for today's episode, this will be the last time there will be 4 of the usual self-promotional links. It will be down to 2 after today. We'll hope that people will find the other programming that is referred to, and then we'll get on with the show. Today's summary. Last week, we covered what I describe as the problem, which applies to our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem at large here in Greater Vegas. This week, having skipped Startup Week 2025, I was kind of on the fence about going. I have reasons and ideas for the next one. I have reasons that I skipped it and ideas for the next. The links for today's episode. The profile page linking everything for your host, that's me, Dan Hugo, has been and is still available after many years, I think at least 5, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You do not need to spend any money, but there you will find links on the kind of generic, or completely open form profile page, freeform, that's the word I was looking for, freeform profile page with links to all of my audio programs, all of the YouTube links, all of the websites for all of them. That's why there are more places. There's now a YouTube channel for Cafe Genius, @Cafe Genius. There's a website, which I'll mention in a moment. You can find all of our audio programming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. There's an RSS feed. Might be on iHeartRadio. There should be more. Hopefully there'll be more. It should always be as easy as possible to find out what we're talking about. The podcast is uploaded automatically from the RSS feed to YouTube. YouTube generates a single frame from the cover art as a video, so you can listen. There's a podcast tab, and then there's the videos tab. Will there ever be actual video content for Cafe Genius? Well, stay tuned to find out. I don't know if you can hear that jet flying by. When you live even not so near an Air Force base, that's going to happen every once in a while. So hopefully it's not coming in too loud. It doesn't look like the VU meter is picking it up, so hopefully not too bad. The 2 links that will be going away after this week, the content will still be there, but I don't want to keep reading links every week and it's like a bit much. Buy Me an Update is an audio program formerly published exclusively on buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. It is a Monday morning weekly 5-minute audio program. It's a quick rundown on the previous week's audio programming topics and any news and announcements moving forward. That too is available via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so on. YouTube channel, Dan Hugo, @Dan Hugo, to pick up Buy Me an Update on YouTube. Coffee Solo used to be published exclusively on Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com. The hyphen is next to the 0 on most keyboards, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. It is a program with yours truly, solo, just right there in the title. The topic could be anything. It's published whenever. There's no specific schedule. The Cafe Genius Impresario program is published on Fridays. So today's episode, recorded on Thursday evening, late afternoon, will be published tomorrow on the 19th of September. So Buy Me an Update, Coffee Solo, those links will no longer be in the link section as a rule. Try to slim down the link section, but those links are also to be found on the profile page linking everything. Finally, Cafe Genius homepage. Not much to look at the moment, but cafegenius.org, CAFFE, genius, no space, cafegenius.org for all of your Cafe Genius needs. Right now it's kind of ugly, but it's skeletal. The pieces are there. Now I have to invent my aesthetic creativity so I can make it look nicer. On that note, let's get on with the show so we can get in and get out. Don't forget, this publishes on Friday, but if I can get this done Thursday, I can get other stuff done. So can you. Yipes. I was signed up to attend Startup Week, Las Vegas, for 2025, which I have not done previously. I never signed up, and then I never went to the other iterations of this event. I still can't say with any certainty if this was the third year or the fourth. I think it was the third, but it might have been the fourth. But on reviewing the agenda for the 3 days, 1 week is 3 days this week, and the attendee list, I'm not judging, but I was curious, and looking at my own to-do list, Startup Week did not make the cut. Now, I looked at the attendee list, and I found it odd that a lot of the people that I would have said would be at this event did not register or didn't want to go, not sure which. But it was curious, and we'll get to the photo section in a moment. That also had me wondering. Yes, the title of this episode spells Startup Week with an A, because that is my opinion. If we, as a gaggle of people trying to accomplish our respective aspirations in this entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, our diversifying economy as it is, if we're going to have something like a Startup Week at our disposal, I happen to think it should work. I don't believe this format does that they have this year. I don't know that it did last year. It seemed to be similar sort of, I don't know. I don't want to say too much. I wasn't there. Yes, I say this having not attended any of these Startup Weeks. I mostly don't go because when I see what they have planned, I think this is not, I don't agree with this. So I don't want to spend the time. There will be people out there who did attend Startup Week for 2025 and who will believe it to be just fine. Magical even, perhaps. They may be correct. And to be clear, the work done to arrange and organize and execute Startup Week is to be appreciated. But there are substantial gaps that should be pointed out because the way we make progress is to build on what works while factoring out the things that do not. Now, determining which is a discussion, perhaps, but what do you want for free? You're getting my 2 cents in return. Look at that, you profit. So first, the things that work, or that apparently work from an outside view, again, chose not to attend. I make this point continuously with our foundation, Innovate for Vegas Foundation, a healthy ecosystem recognizing and celebrating people making it happen is what we should be looking for. It's where we should be aiming. We should be recognizing and celebrating people making it happen. The impresarios, if you will, given the challenging media environment in the greater Vegas area, with tremendous emphasis on the fun economy elements, demolition and construction on or near the Strip, and so on, especially crime. And there isn't even an outlandish amount of crime, but the crime does get the headlines. Not that there's no crime, I'm not saying that at all. Uh, recognizing that there are entrepreneurial innovators in the greater Vegas area is a good thing. It should happen more often. And I hope that startup discovery crawl that was Wednesday night went off like a gender reveal party for all of the genders. Like a lot of glitter and balloons popping and colored smoke and whatever else. All manner of celebration, very Vegas style. Fireworks, neon lights, and so on. That'd be cool. If there's going to be a growing population of entrepreneurial innovators or innovative entrepreneurs, take your pick, shining a light on some kind of general, shining a light of some kind in general, there you go, is a good idea. Having an event called Startup Week Las Vegas is a part of that, to be sure. If it brings people away from their laptops, out of their home offices and into the light, so much the better. It'd be nice to see people working on their startups. Actually working on their startups. I mean, taking a break, but it'd be nice to see who's actually making stuff go. It is too bad that startup is still equated so tightly with tech. So the word startup implies a tech startup. Oh, you're building an app? With a lot of attention paid to AI and tech-leaning funding and other aspects of startups, but something is something. So we have a starting point. I can only come up with the things that work. Startup Week is a couple of days of attention with 360 other days, 362 really, aimed almost anywhere but the elevation of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. I have long been a critic, not to be negative, but to point to ways we might advance the cause if there is one. We have to be honest. Ideally, new connections were made between entrepreneurs and innovators in various stages of their progress to continue conversations forward without necessitating a synchronizing event. In other words, hopefully people that met each other during this 3-day startup week, hey, it's a short week. There's a couple of days left over. You can actually interact. I found in my early days of attending Tech Alley every month that it was difficult for people to take any action that wasn't, I'll just see you at Tech Alley. Why do we have to arrange our schedules around this one event? We can actually continue the conversation, conversations that begin at an event like Startup Week or Tech Alley or Global Entrepreneur Week or Level Up or Link Up or Stink Up or whatever those various events are. Those should be the beginnings of conversations. If you hand over your interactions to someone else's calendar, you are missing out. You can ponder that. You can pause if you want. Pause this episode and you can think about that. So now, how about 2.0? This is instead of pointing out the things that I think are problematic, I'll just give my suggestions. And in so doing, imply what's problematic. So rather than nitpicking and coming off as a Debbie Downer, which by the way is something I have heard before, because people mistake criticism aimed at improvement with simple complaining, which is probably what those particular people are used to doing. Let us sketch out some ideas for Startup Week 2.0 for a few months from now. Wait, did I mean a year from now? No. The first thing I would suggest is a semester-like approach, twice each year, highlighting, recognizing, and celebrating the entrepreneurs and innovators of the greater Vegas area. While we're at it, Vegas has a thing against young people participating in this stuff. So they have Startup Week during the week, just after students return to school. Ditch any notion of 21 plus venue and event plans and let us have one startup week at the end of the spring semester so that young entrepreneurs and innovators around age 12 and above can participate. They can be 12 and below too. And by the way, they can participate by attending and watching how to turn ideas into action. You don't have to be 21 to have an idea. And you should be able to not participate by skipping school. You should be able to just go. We can have the other one 6 months later at the end of the fall semester. So it's kind of oriented at the students. By the way, the children are our future. Treat them well and all that. Twice each year, that is twice as much potential. While there is something to be said for entrepreneurs having their own schedule, and that's usually true, so that a startup week can schedule events from early morning and through the day, I would wonder whether the ecosystem would be better served by planning for people who are pursuing startups or pondering it, who have day jobs. This includes people working for NGOs and in the staff of our local governments who may not be able to attend and just to see what goes on in general, to be a part of what's happening in our cities, in our county, in our locality. And if you've heard me before, you know that the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, one of the important pillars is regulation and infrastructure, which is the result of government and NGO action, not to mention anyone in general. People who may have an idea that they're pondering, they're aspirational. It'd be cool if they could attend Startup Week. Wouldn't that be neat? Is this an issue? Well, let us jump to the next section, the population. Who makes up the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem? Unfortunately, the HUVA, and I meant to check and make sure that is what it is called. I think it's HUVA. HUVA. Yeah. WHOVA. And if you did not attend or sign up for Startup Week, HUVA is an event platform. So more focused than Meetup, but you create your event, you can invite people, they sign up. There's an agenda. You can have links to who the speakers are and the panel. It's very nice. Okay. The HUVA platform selected to organize the event this year, while functional, is not purpose-built, is not meant for maintaining an entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. It has social network features, sure, like discussion forums and email reminders, whatever. But this is yet another thing to log into and manage, another platform that wants to retain users for other events and whatnot. Instead, we should be reaching out and engaging with a vertically identified population within our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. If we are serious about all of this, we should own the tools and the communications. Some have suggested Slack. This is just handing everything over to another third party. Something we could self-host here locally, something that could be developed here locally or modified. Everybody will say, whoa, like a WordPress website. Well, if you've seen people deploying calendar event websites with WordPress, you know that they're mostly garbage. Sorry. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth? I don't know. So some have suggested Slack. That might be okay. It could integrate with Slack if people really want to use that, but that's just another third-party platform. Similar problem. But what about this, that some local innovation to tackle this stuff, we could apply this, we're a global innovation hub. We can apply that thinking to, hey, we should act like it. Stuff like polling, as I was suggesting moments ago, the schedule and agenda of a startup week may or may not work to enable participation from some parts of the ecosystem population if they have day jobs. Now, no, you cannot organize an event around everyone's schedule, but you can certainly say, maybe we should accommodate large swaths of the entrepreneur population if they are committed to day jobs or going to school. If we can build connection with an existing and incoming population and outgoing, perhaps, members of that population of the ecosystem, we could ask them. Wouldn't that be interesting? This could be true in general about schedules, focus, ways to improve the ecosystem, and so on, and so on, and so on. Kind of like what we talked about in the Genius Roundtable, but all the time. By the way, asking entrepreneurs to chime in on something is asking for trouble, I know. They either avoid the distraction, so you never hear from them, or, like me, they put on their entrepreneur hat and tell you what you're doing wrong. But this is something, though, and it's something we could actually do. Maintaining these connections outside of an event planning platform makes communication, introspection, and applications into the future, can we think asset map perhaps? Well, easier. Handing everything over to platform developers or a platform that has its own agenda like Huva or Slack or LinkedIn or Meetup may work this week for Startup Week, 3 days. But what about the next week and after? Like relying on LinkedIn, I question our global innovation hub, our logical successor to Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, avoiding actual innovation in this area. And when I say in this area, I mean literally and figuratively. I mean in this geographical area and in the area of connecting the members, the participants in our ecosystem. We should be changing that. Now the agenda for our Startup Week 2.0. I question the compression of Startup Week into 3 days. Again, I've mentioned this last week and before. I question it, but I kind of know the answer, so let us reflect on what we could do with a Startup Week that is a full week. First of all, who is our audience? The GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, which sponsored this year, presumably they're looking to convince more startups, though really existing viable businesses are their preference, let's be honest. They're looking for them to establish a presence in Nevada, to relocate or start their startup here, or to establish a presence of some existing business. They're all too happy about that. So the agenda was leaning into financials and strategy and, of course, integrating the tech du jour, AI. I wonder what it will be in 3 months. What to do with all those people that have lost their jobs. Integrating HI into your startup. We can keep those. All those panels and discussions, those are fine. But how about making that a second track or a second half focus in the interest of recognizing and celebrating the actual people doing the actual things? How about a first half emphasis on the actual entrepreneurs and innovators making it happen? Rather than a weird discovery crawl, and I'm sure it was a fine event, make the first 2 days of our startup week all about demo days. That is, feature the startups, feature the entrepreneurs and the innovators, or as I like to call this notion, the local innovator show and tell. This includes entrepreneurs, so you could say local entrepreneur show and tell if you really want to. Let us hope the entrepreneurs are in the population of innovators, but yeah, you never know. And by the way, let me interrupt myself and remind you and me, startups, entrepreneurs, they are not necessarily starting tech companies. They may be doing something interesting with food or retail, or maybe they're trying to establish something new in a particular locality to take advantage of the location or the population or some other aspect. They're doing something interesting. They should have a forum during Startup Week to present their notion. Imagine that. Day 1 is for local entrepreneurs. Day 2 is for local innovators. Perhaps either way, front and center, the stars of the week, the people pursuing startups. The crawl idea would also be a mingle, or could also be a mingle, a meet and greet, basically time to follow up the interesting presenters and anyone who we missed during those main presentation days, demo days, if you want. We should make the startups the star of the show. Now, after you've got your aspirational juices flowing, you've met so many people. Oh, you're working on this. You mean you can just start a company? You don't even have to start a company. You can just take an idea and run with it. There are a lot of ways to go. Well, that's a great way to set up that second half. However, right in the middle. So let's suppose we started on Monday. And yes, I am suggesting weekdays. Maybe we could start it in the evening or later in the afternoon. So people that wanted to, and by the way, we would capture video of all these and publish them so people who couldn't make it are still able to participate, at least passively, by consuming the content. We should be doing that with all of the content. All of the panel discussions, all the presentations should all be observable after the fact. Not only for people in Vegas, but everybody in the world who thinks Vegas is only gambling and drinking. So Wednesday, mid-program, meet the people. The Ignite Talks idea is a great one. Though we do not need to be encumbered by the Ignite brand, as we've covered previously, there's a whole thing that we could be doing instead of that. There are stories to tell that are not pitches, but personal. Learn a little bit more about the people that make up the startup and entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, the people that are trying to make things happen, doing interesting, innovative things. Could be in any number of areas, maybe things you never thought about, but let's get to know them. Not everything is a pitch. As well, a great time to hear from infrastructure, including people from the GoEd, from local government offices, from adjacent NGOs, that's non-government organizations, and in general, the foundational elements of this ecosystem. But only one day for all this? Yeah, of course, because guess what? You can also interact with all of those people other times through the year. So these are like introductions. Hey, just so you know, here are the friendly faces and email addresses that you should be making use of or having conversations with and making use of in your pursuit of entrepreneurialism and innovation here in the Greater Vegas ecosystem. I know it sounds crazy. I should be carted off somewhere. The final 2 days are similar to the agenda this year, focusing on things like funding and hiring and implementations with artificial intelligence and other such things, like a how-to or the leg up. What kind of resources are available? Hey, I'm thinking about moving here. What's in it for me? That kind of stuff. The last mile, or as I like to call it, the first mile. By the way, we can loosen up the focus on tech and make it more about entrepreneurialism and innovation in general. I like to remind people of that every once in a while. We need to work on getting the word out. I always look around for how our local media infrastructure is covering efforts to diversify the local economy in general. It would be better. It could be better. Will it ever be better? The local papers of record, the Las Vegas Sun and the Review Journal, do not do much to even mention this stuff. I checked today, nothing. Now, I'm not saying they didn't mention it somewhere. If you know to look for it, now it's not a newspaper. Now it's it's Wikipedia. Like, I need that front page to say, hey, by the way, this is Startup Week. Dong, 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 dong. I looked on the local television news websites. Generally speaking, not much mention. They don't mention this stuff, pretty much. And a quick glance again today. I'm sorry, I looked before. Quick glance again today. They did not have any noticeable coverage on front pages regarding Startup Week as it's happening. So not only did they not mention its upcoming things to do in Vegas this week, things to do in Vegas this month, nothing. And again, there may be some little coverage somewhere in a corner, a dark corner of a website or something. You really got to luck out to find that stuff. So the same goes for, again, the network news websites and whatnot. If you found the Las Vegas Startup Week website, congratulations. The odds were stacked severely against you. And as we know, Las Vegas is a city built on that, unfortunately. How about local content creators? Our cadre of influencers always running around with their mobile phones or actual cameras to capture the latest in pool events, restaurant openings, food and drink listicles, top 10 this, top 5 best whatever, top 5 cheapest, and observations about the latest dip in tourism, of course. Do they take some time to mention our economic diversity? That there is more going on than activity on the Strip and downtown and so on? Is there more to life than gaming and gambling, and how many tourists are here from Canada and so on? One might wonder, do they accept payment to promote such things? Could some arrangements be made so that they feature content prior to Startup Week to engage their audiences and kind of let them know there is more to Vegas than what they've been talking about the other 51 weeks of the year? And of course, come by during the week of Startup for some content in situ, and maybe some other stuff through the year in general. Maybe just make it a part of what people talk about. Well, yes, they would do that for money. All of them? Probably not. Some might not be interested or might not have the audience. But a few can make a little difference, and organizations like LVCVA are alleged to compensate some content creators now and then to promote some aspects of the greater Vegas area. So why not take that approach? At least try. Speaking of getting the word out, I received an email on Thursday because I did sign up for the event even though I didn't go. So I got a Hugo email sent by the event organizer, I believe, with the subject line, today's photos from Startup Week Las Vegas 2025. I received it Thursday, and they were allegedly from Wednesday or before, but okay, so the title should be yesterday's photos. There were 17 photos and 4 videos. Now, according to the website, there were almost 600 total registrations for people to attend, 350-ish, maybe a little bit below that, allegedly located in the greater Vegas area, like people who live here. Maybe other people were going to be in for the event. I don't know. 17 photos. And these are photos taken and published by people, attendees or otherwise, not like a designated photographer, apparently. Why is there not proactive promotion of the event with the various panel discussions and presentations, photo booths, live streams, and publishing those all through the day, all the time? So much potential for innovation on top of what has become the norm in these modern times. Now, I know the website will feature photos. If you visit the startupweeklasvegas.com website, they have photos from last year. It is 2025, if my calendar is correct. Why? Why? Especially because they have, if my recollection is correct, they're having the entire 3 days of events in generally the same place. So there could very easily have been some streaming cameras. It just kind of had crowd shots like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the vibe. Connection. I have gone on at length over the last few episodes of this very program, all of them to some degree, if we are being completely honest with each other. So this is episode 134, so 134 episodes worth, regarding the people who make up the ecosystem in Greater Vegas, a community calendar and inner silo connection and communication. 2 great tastes that are missing, according not only to me, but to more than one study published in recent months and years. The Hugo platform needs a login and is aimed at retaining event participants. If I could spell participants, that'd be helpful. They want to retain event participants. They want to sign up new users. Good for them. Attendees and speakers and all those people, similar to Meetup and other such websites, because they want to continue reaching out and engaging with those new users for other events. And I'm not going to complain too much about that. That is That's how business works, and there may be some utility in that, and that's fine. It is a vertical and business. I'm sorry, it's a vertical business. It's focusing on that type of clientele, people who attend events and are interested in making those connections and continuing conversations and so on and so on. So they're not really being too negative on that. Is it the best way to connect our ecosystem, flora and fauna, though? I am going to say no. It is a tool in the toolbox that we should be building with intent, the toolbox. If we are a global innovation hub, why are we not taking that on? Like, we can learn something from Hugo. We could actually do an after action, a retrospective. Hey, everybody, what worked and what didn't with this Hugo platform? And most people say, oh, it worked fine. But you will find, especially the real entrepreneurs, who will say, I didn't like having to have another thing to sign up for and log into, and then getting more emails. And the user interface is not ideal. And I wish it would integrate with my calendar better. And I wish I this and that. And here are some things I would change and so on. That's the beginning of co-creation, where you actually find ways to better service the customers. And in this case, the customers are the people in our own ecosystem. I know that's crazy. It's a crazy idea. I have them all the time. LinkedIn is the benchmark for connection and garbage content. I forgot I wrote that, but it's true. For better or worse, if you are not connected on LinkedIn to the right people and following the right pages, you may not hear about events and gatherings and other news items. It is way too often the case that people simply announce things or publish or advertise events and business dealings and important items on LinkedIn. That's it. You stumble upon them, maybe. But given the fact that our local media landscape is really not servicing the local entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, you kind of have to deal with what you have available. So I understand it. I'm not happy about it. This goes back to the community calendar item, but also goes to being open in general. If I don't use LinkedIn, if I am not connected to a bunch of Las Vegas people when I move my startup here from somewhere else, what then? So we are generally trying to reach out to a community of people that has to already know about the people that are in the community here and then connect with them. I've had this conversation, by the way, more than once. Just go to this place or talk to this person, and the person new to the area, I've asked them that. So what did you? Like, I didn't know who they were talking about. I didn't know what they were talking about. I don't know any of these things. People refer to places and people as if everybody knows them, and that may be true in a very, very small population. But it's not generally known to people who are just arrived, right? And this was a problem in the downtown project days. When you were new in town, you don't know where the what was that place? What was that school thing by the? I'm doing it right now, but the container park. If you know where the container park is, what is it? It's on Fremont and about 7th, I think. And right next door to it was the Learning Village. That's what it was called. Well, unfortunately, the Learning Village was not on Google Maps. It didn't really have a properly advertised postal address with that name associated with it. So if somebody said, oh, we're over at the Learning Village, you couldn't always find it. That may have changed at some point, but when I first moved here, that was the case. And there were a few locations like that were very familiar, but not obvious and not easily found to newcomers. Placing so much weight on so few platforms and connection tools is problematic, to say the least. Be open. And there is a Las Vegas Startup Week Las Vegas website, so that's a start. But you got to go sign up for Hugo to get some of this information out of it, which I think is not a great way to go. One of the various facets of the downtown project that worked, and there were several, if we really think about it, was general proximity. There is no shortage of third places, as they say, your home, your work, and your third place, a coffee shop, a library, wherever. We have plenty. No matter what time it is, there are countless opportunities to run into each other, and the infamous serendipitous collision, not a way not something to rely on for the purposes of building a business environment, but certainly something to consider as a facet to that environment. So depending on it, not great. Enabling it, probably great. Which means people have to know each other and run into each other more often, regardless of calendared events. You shouldn't be requiring or depending on Meetup or Hugo and without relying entirely on one event on a Saturday each month or a startup week of 3 days once a year. Not to say that this doesn't happen, the serendipitous collisions, but it may be something that is not happening as it could or as it once did. I used to tell people wandering around downtown Las Vegas, which I was not doing 24 hours a day, but you'd be going from point A to point B, and you'd walk past, oh, hey, how's it going? Across the street. Maybe you're walking on Fremont or Stewart, or you're walking down one of the numbered streets or something, or you're heading towards Maine, or you're going to walk down to the Arts District. You would run into people that you knew from other places. And even though you're here in Vegas, you do live here, but you're running into people downtown that you have met at other events downtown. You may not know them more than casually, or even as just an even less than casual acquaintance that you ran into at some, but you can say, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, are you heading over to, hey, what's that thing you're working on, right? Just having ad hoc conversations more often is one way to cultivate our culture of innovation. I've mentioned that before. Rather than relying on meetup calendars and startup weeks, we should be relying on humans being human, acting like humans, behaving like human beings, social creatures. We should be enabling that at every turn. So this is the beginning. I don't want to go on and on. It's already been 40 minutes by my clock. I haven't truncated silence, so it'll probably be a little bit less than that, but post-production. So let's jump to the beginning of Startup Week 2.0, that is. I've already mentioned this before. I am part of the Entrepreneurial Innovation Ecosystem. Maybe you are too. I bet you are. I have been talking about several of these ideas I cover in this audio program with people at UNLV and people in the local government for years. I've lived here for 12 years. 12 years in August, so 12 years, 1 month and 18 days as I record this. We have the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, which gets nearly zero support or interest from those same folks, sadly, except for Don Jacobson, wherever he went. He was our one advocate on the other side. And our so-called startup scene always seems to be an aspiration. It's always something that's like, hopefully next year, maybe. Again, I've been here for 12 years. I watched the Downtown Project do what it was doing in a fairly localized sense. But I've been here for 12 years. Where are we? Okay, there was a pandemic in the middle there, but Startup Week is not going to cut it like we are at the beginning of the beginning this many years later. This is not to say that there are not entrepreneurs and innovators making their endeavors from within. A founder or founder group making the most of what is around them, but still advancing the cause because of who and what they are, not because of where they are. There are surely some exceptions, but this is the minority of cases. Yes, I would think. Location still holds for some businesses. I'm not denying that. But we should be aware of this. But being in it, and we should be aware of it, I should say. So location is not completely divorced from entrepreneurialism in some cases. But being an entrepreneur itself, being of that mindset, transcends location, even if the actual business deployment may not. So you may be an entrepreneur, but you happen to be opening a retail location of a restaurant or a bookstore or whatever in a place that has the best foot traffic and it fits the locale. But the entrepreneurialism comes from within. All of this said, in this episode and in the 133 before, there is work to do. I've said it before and I'll say it in more episodes in the future. Too much for any one person, and none of it happens over a free lunch. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch, as the saying goes, sometimes attributed to Milton Friedman in like 1930. But the actual origin story is not really known. Milton Friedman is an economist, as everyone should be. Did he? Yeah, he died in 2006. So Milton Friedman sometimes is attributed, that quote is attributed to him, but it's been allegedly seen before his time. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So maybe the time has come again to consider getting serious. I say this all the time. I'm saying it again. If you find you are not seeing me around at these gatherings and events and whatnot as I used to be, you know better now what I am up to. Fingers crossed. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for doing whatever it is you're doing, trying to be a part of the future greatness. I don't know if there's going to be future greatness, but you know what? Doing your thing and trying to be good and be good at it or whatever. We don't necessarily need to be the next Silicon Valley. In fact, I advocate against that. I always say, let's just try to be a better Vegas. So whatever you're doing to try to make a better Vegas, as far as being open to and inviting for, with other entrepreneurs, being open to new ideas, being helpful now and then, responding to emails would be nice. A lot of people don't do that. Getting rid of this whole ghosting culture, that would be a vast improvement. Personally, I think we have a lot of work to do here. I think we have a long road ahead of us if we intend to be some mecca or innovation hub, innovation destination. I think we got that. I think we're good. I think we could actually do something much more interesting and more quickly with that. But entrepreneurs can be entrepreneurs wherever, and you can deploy a business here or somewhere else. You can be based here and do your business somewhere else. There's a whole bunch of possibilities. I would like to see more of that talked about, and I would like to see more of those serendipitous collisions. And again, not a business plan, but not a bad thing. And so while I probably won't be at any organized events anytime soon that I will run into you at, who knows? Maybe I'll see you at a coffee shop or walking along Fremont or Stewart or heading over to Maine. You never know. Thanks for listening. Catch you later. Bye-bye.